Oh, we're live, Michael.
Good evening.
8 p.m. Monday. You know what that means?
It's Novak News, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. We're going to be talking tonight about common mistakes first home buyers make. Stay tuned.
Whoa, big intro for us tonight, Michael.
Yeah, very excited.
They put the show on for us. Guys, tonight, obviously, Michael and I are going to talk to you about being a first home buyer. Markets change. A lot of different things happen throughout the process of buying a property. We're hopefully going to give you some tips if you are a first home buyer into what you can do and some common mistakes that first home buyers make.
Yeah, and it can be really daunting.
Yeah.
In terms of, obviously, when you're first coming into the market, a lot of people do normally have very good friends and family around them that can sort of support them, someone that has purchased a property before and that can give you that advice. And sometimes it can be really good advice, or sometimes it can be shocking.
Sometimes that's a common mistake, is listening to your family.
Exactly. And so you really want to make sure you've got good people in your corner as well. And that's what we'll start to touch on. But yeah, it definitely can be a very daunting process, especially in Australia, where buying a property is very different to other parts of the world, where it is extremely quick, where you can see a property in the morning and be unconditionally bought it by that afternoon. There's not many places where that can happen that quickly, and you want to make sure you know what you're doing.
Yep. Sounds good. So let's talk about the first thing, Michael. What should we do before a buyer gets out there in the marketplace, starts searching? What are some key things that we should have as a buyer in place, or what we should really do? Michael?
So as a buyer, I'd first of all start to research your market. So obviously jump on realestate.com, get in touch with local agents, start to look around and get a feel for not only what properties are guiding, but actually jump on the sold section, see what properties are selling for as well.
Yes,
so you start to get a feel of, okay, well, roughly this is the type of property I like. This is how much they're going for. So you get that idea. And then the second part of it is get good people in your corner. So I'll let you go through it, Steves, but in terms of you got to get a good broker, a good solicitor, a good accountant as well for getting your tax returns in time, and making sure that you get those people to guide you, because they're the ones that are going to be the difference in you securing a property or potentially making a massive blunder as well.
Yeah. I think you said something really important, Michael. That's research the market, and it's really easy to do. The best advice I could give would be you can just jump onto realestate.com, type in sold. There's tabs at the top, buy, sell, rent, hit sell, type in your suburb, filter down what you're looking for, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, a house, an apartment, and then that will bring up all of the sales activity for the suburb. So just be mindful as agents, we're obviously here trying to create as much demand for a property that we can. And the guide prices sometimes are put in there to entice maximum activity. But the best way to see what something's worth is check those sold properties.
So start with, researching the market, seeing what you like at what rough price points. The second part I'd do is start chatting to your broker. So get all your information into them, work out what you can get approved for, which is where basically they take all your documentation, they'll guide you through it, and then they'll take it all to the bank, and the bank will say, we're going to loan you X amount, $500,000, $800,000, whatever it might be. Once you know that, then you can work backwards and go, okay, well, what can we actually afford? And then you can start looking at relevant properties.
And just be smart as well to know what the outgoings are. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's about knowing the expenses. So it's not just the purchase price. What's it going to cost you to run that property week in, week out as well? So good thing, Michael, broker. Number 2, I would say, is get a good lawyer, a good solicitor, or a conveyancer. Particularly one that specialises in a lot of real estate. So they'll be quite familiar with contracts. Sometimes they're pretty simple in our regards, sometimes they're quite complex, but a good property lawyer will, 1, act pretty quickly for you when you need to make that decision, and 2, can answer a lot of questions that may throw some other buyers as well.
Do not go for the cheapest one. So the best advice we give to all of our buyers is go for someone. The difference between a good solicitor and a bad solicitor might be a couple $100, could be maybe $1,000 between the top end and the bottom end. But going for someone either A, that's been recommended that has done a good job with friends or family in the past, or B, someone that is going to know what they're doing, is going to be accessible potentially even out of office hours as well, is a massive, massive thing. Where we see a lot of buyers get stuck is where you don't have a great solicitor in your corner. For example, they're reviewing a strata report for you and they miss something on there, something quite big, and then you find out later on. Yes, extreme example. Or potentially they don't move quick enough and they don't review the contract quick enough, and another buyer jumps in and buys it before you as well.
Yeah.
So I think the extra couple $100 you spend on the solicitor, obviously we get nothing for this, but I think it's very good money spent to make sure that guarantees you the best possible chance and also takes away any of that risk as well.
Yeah, cool. Did we talk about brokers?
Yeah, we spoke about brokers also.
Get a good broker in your corner.
Because with brokers also, compared to just shopping out of banks, so obviously you might just walk down to your local branch of the bank that you're banking with, and they're going to give you all the deals that they've got available. You don't know about the 20 other deals that might be available with other banks. And most people, you're working a full-time job, you're not going to have time to go do all the research yourself. And if you are, kudos to you as well. But for majority of people, definitely get a broker. Once again, they're experienced in that field. They know better than you all the deals out there. And the good thing is they're paid by the bank. You don't pay them anything, and they shop around for you.
Good idea. So I guess first step, you've got a solicitor, a conveyancer, you've got a broker, you know what your financial limits are. You've got some family support perhaps, or a friend that might know what they're doing. Yep. Now you're going to go out into the big world and start looking at property. My first piece of advice would be look at as much real estate as you can within that criteria. So don't just focus on your suburb. Definitely look at everything in the suburb you're targeting, those surrounding suburbs, because you got to remember they're going to be selling shortly, and then you'll be able to identify where you think market value sits for certain types of properties that you're targeting. So do that research.
100%. Because you don't know as well, like you might have a particular suburb. Let's use the Northern Beaches, for example. You might love Narrabeen. You go, I really want to buy an apartment in Narrabeen. I've lived in Narrabeen my whole life. Let's go buy there. And then you look at all these apartments there and you haven't even explored potentially Collaroy or DY. And you're looking at these apartments in Narrabeen, and then you found out, there's actually, I can get the exact same apartment in Collaroy for much cheaper that's in a better position potentially, or vice versa in DY. Look at surrounding suburbs. It gives you a really good overarching idea of what's going on in the market as well, because you don't want to narrow that field or just looking at any particular one type of property.
Yeah. So you're going to go out, you're going to go and attend those opens. Try, please, this is not really a mistake from first home buyers, but as a real estate agent, try to come between the actual viewing time. As agents, we've got to run to property on a Saturday. So if you can get there early.
And it means you don't get rushed out. It means you don't get rushed out by the agent.
We can help you a little bit better. We can answer those questions. Yeah. But when they're coming through, Michael, common questions that you think buyers should be asking, particularly first home buyers.
Yeah,
there at your open home.
Definitely one of the biggest one is what are the outgoings. Yeah. So as a first home buyer, majority of the time we're looking obviously strata type properties as well. So the biggest one is your strata rates. Because with properties, basically there's the strata rates, and the best way to describe it is for a house, you've got your outgoings where you're going to be paying to maintain the outside, the inside of the house, but you have to pay it by yourself. Strata is that, just on a larger scale. You're splitting it with 10, 20, 30, 40 other people, and basically it's on a large scale. Everyone pulls in, everyone saves together, and then they spend that money on maintaining the block. So understanding what those costs are, your water, your council, your electricity, understanding what all your outgoings are going to be, because it's a lot more than just your mortgage.
Yeah, true. Something I would say as well is get a good feel for what exactly the property offers. So in a house, that's quite simple to do. You've got the boundaries and everything within there. Generally, you're going to be buying. For an apartment, sometimes you've got a garden, which the agent says, look at this fantastic garden. You can put your pets out there, whatever you want, only to find out later that the building may not be as friendly towards pets, or that it's common property. That means it's a part of the block that everybody shares. So you want to find out, what is exactly involved with the property. So we call that being on title of the property, and what may or may not be extra features to it.
There's so many of those little curveballs, that you just got to be aware of. And the only way you get it is through experience. So like Stevan said initially,
you just first home buyer.
No, in terms of, but looking at different properties, asking the questions. Don't go and buy the first property that you see, especially like if you do have that lack of experience. If you're very experienced in that field, it's different. You see the right property, might be the first one, great, go ahead and buy it. But when it's your very first time, you want to get your bearings, like Stevan said. Ask the questions: is this courtyard on title? Understanding all that, having a solicitor review contracts, going through that process, so that way when you do finally jump in on the right property, you know that hopefully you've sort of mitigated all your risks as well. And look, a good agent also should step you through that. They should be sort of alerting you to, hey, these are all the things that are great. These are things you've got to watch out for, and stepping you through that process also. So a good agent should help assist you walk through.
Yeah, cool. I'd say another thing is also don't be afraid. I know there's a lot of different personalities in the world, and sometimes as real estate agents we look like big scary people. We're not. Look, you've got to understand our role is to facilitate the sale. So we're here to help you. We want you to buy the right home that's great for you. And if it's the one we're showing, fantastic. Yeah. If not, we want to help you, find the next property as well. So don't be afraid. Most real estate agents are happy to talk, particularly the more experienced guys. We'll give you our inputs. You may not like what we want, but what we've got, but you're talking about another area. We've got a wide knowledge and a database to help you with that. So don't be afraid to approach us. We're lovely guys.
Yes.
We want to talk to you. We want to help you. So please ask any questions. Don't think it's a stupid question or not. And number 2, I would say, don't get over emotional. So
that's a
lot of
big
people
one.
Walk in, fall in love. I love it. But be mindful as a first-home buyer. Try to keep that undercover and focus on some of the particulars. With the property that are going to help you in the long run.
Especially when you're comparing. So there's 2 different ways a property can sell: via private treaty or even auction.
Yeah.
And when you're buying it via private treaty, obviously you put forward your offer, you negotiate with the owner there via the agent, set your limits. So the nice thing is, going back to what we said initially, is looking at what other properties have sold for. No 2 properties are the same. Just because something sold for X amount doesn't mean you have to pay the exact same amount or exactly less because of this exact square meterage. It's a rough guide, but it's not an exact rule. Yeah. But make sure you're at least in the ballpark. And then once again, set your limit. Yeah. Once you hit your limit, you don't have to jump over it. And that's probably more teetering towards auction style environments where, like Stevan said, you don't want your emotions to get you caught up there. And then you overspend for something and went, ooh, yeah. I shouldn't have done that, especially considering it can be quite high pressure in those types of environments as well. Yeah. So as long as you've got a clear idea of how much you can spend beforehand, you'll be fine.
Yeah, cool. So, really important to do that. What I'd also say is that, guys, if you do find a property that you like, if it's an apartment, you want to do what's called a strata report. So that's a background check or a health check, if you will, of the entire building, and even takes into account the history of the building as well. So that's going to talk about any past issues, any present issues, any conversations, anything that's going to be coming up that may be a future expense to you. It's good to get that full working knowledge behind what that property offers. If you're buying a house, Mike, get a strata report.
Yeah, you get a building and pest report for that one, and that's basically most of the time the agents will have one already prepared that normally costs you a small fee to have to order, or you can get someone to do it yourself. Normally ask the agent, they'll have someone to recommend, or your solicitor will have someone they can recommend as well.
Yeah.
And you basically, that's making sure there's no pest issues with the property, making sure there's no major building issues. In saying that, no property's perfect.
Yeah.
So right. Every strata report has got something. Every building and pest report has got something. It's about understanding how big that something is, whether you're comfortable with buying a property that has whatever issues, no matter how big or small, and also making sure you account for it.
Yeah.
Because
that's good. No. I was going to say something a little bit off topic, but a conversation I have with buyers day in, day out is I like to work on a 5-star type of rating system for a property. And I agree, no property is perfect. If you have a 5 out of 5 star rating at something you're looking at, you've got to buy that day. Yeah. If you've got 4 out of 5, you should probably buy the property. If you've got 3 out of 5, you should probably think about it. If you've got 2 or less, then it's probably not the right one for you. So a lot of people I know that they want, I want that. Look, that property might exist, but it's probably 150,000 or 200,000 more than what your budget is at the moment.
Your 5-star system's my 10 tick box system. 10, yeah. Ooh. We're spreading out the scale a little bit more.
Okay.
And
what's your 10 box system?
It's the same thing, effectively going, if there's no such thing as a property that 10 ticks, 10 out of 10 boxes, including the price box.
As you get older, you can't remember 10 miles.
Yeah.
Just go to 5.
Well, normally people, because when you buy a property, you got to work out your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And you got to work out what you can or can't compromise on as well. And that's a big thing as a first home buyer. I find a lot of first home buyers go, we want this, and this. And then their budget, unfortunately, doesn't reflect it as well. You really want to peel back and work out what is something that we cannot go without. We need a lock-up garage because we need storage, for example. Yeah. Okay, well, let's not look at properties without lock-up garages. We want a 2-bedroom unit, it's just the 2 of us, but we need a study space. So we need 2 bedrooms. Well, maybe have you considered a large 1+ study?
Yeah.
So those sorts of things there, you work out what you can compromise on, what you can't compromise on. And when you peel it back there, like Stevan said, if you can find that property that has that 4 out of 5 stars, ticks all your non-negotiables, and then ticks most of your ones that you're like, these are our wants, but we don't have to have.
Yeah.
Well, then you're at a great start.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a fair price.
I agree. Well, that's a good point to get to, Michael. So price, like, where do you start? You might see something. A lot of real estate today is either auction where there's no price.
Yeah.
Contact agent seems to be rampant in today's market. Some of us have got what we call a price guide, where you'll see, maybe a 900 to a 950, 990 range, usually a 10% range. Where do you start as a first home buyer with an offer?
That's so true.
Question.
So a good agent should guide you along with it in terms of giving you an idea. This is where the interest is coming in. This is where the owner's expectations are. A good agent should at least give you a ballpark in terms of where to put your offer forward. And then at the end of the day, you got to decide what's right for you. The mistake I see a lot of first home buyers make is sometimes they start extremely low, even though they know they're not going to get the property there, but they start really low thinking, oh, maybe they will, and then sort of crawl their way up. From our experience, we find that when you start in that sort of environment there, it does allow a lot more for other buyers to come into the picture. Yeah. And then also it just basically opens up to too many possibilities of what if. Yeah. And this is sort of recycling back to what we said before in terms of knowing what other properties have sold for. If you know what other properties have sold for that are very similar, and you know that this is going to sell, like, well, there's always going to be a bit of a range, but in a ballpark of where it's going to go, this is my suggestion. I'm curious to hear yours, but my suggestion is find out the agent's advice, see where they're saying the interest is at, where the owner's expectations are. And if the owner's expectations are in the ballpark of where you've seen other properties sell for, don't stuff around. Jump in, put in a fair offer in that sort of range there, and make sure you're ready to go with it. And the reason why I say that is, even if you've overpaid for a property by 5,000, 10,000, let's put in percentages, 1, 2, 3, 4% of the property value. With property, it's not timing the market and trying to buy it the cheapest, it's time in the market. So as long as you get a good fundamentally good property, you get yourself in the market, you hold on to that property 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to make money.
Yeah, you're right.
And the difference of that, you might save yourself $5,000 in securing the property. In 10 years' time, you're not going to worry about that anyway. All you're going to care about is, hey, that's the property that I bought versus the one that you didn't buy.
Yeah, spot on. And I gave a friend of mine some recent advice like that. Moving interstate, he said, Stevan, I've seen a property, showed me the pictures. It looks beautiful. I have no idea what the market value is to it as an agent in Sydney. Yeah. I said, look, let me have a quick look. This is what seems to be the selling rate. He said, look, that's a little bit above what I want to pay. I want to put a lower offer in. And I said to him, listen, okay, do that. The agent came back and said, no, look, it's not at a level that we're going to accept. And my colleague, my friend came back to me and he said, look, they're asking me to pay X, Y, Z for it. And it's a little bit more than I want to pay. And I said to them, look, guys, at that price, can you afford the property? Yes, we can. Okay. How long do you see yourselves living in the property? He says, oh, look, we're probably going to be here, I would say 25 years, but it could be, 30 years. This is going to be our big family purchase, and we're going to raise the kids here. It's going to be fantastic. And I said, okay, and the agent's asking you for how much more? He said, for 25,000. I said, okay, well, look, let's look at the recent sales. 25,000 seems in line with the others. Okay, it's a little bit more than what you personally want to pay, but look at it this way. Does it get you the home that you want? Yes. Does it tick the needs that you want for your family, swimming pool, parking, close to schools? Yes, it does. Okay, and it is affordable? Yes, it is. Okay, so there you've got 3 ticks that mean you can get into the family home, you pay 25 grand more than you want, but you're in there for 30 years. And now you don't have to keep looking. You're in a fantastic family home. And I said, I don't know the market at all, but if the home ticks all those boxes,
and if it's in line with everything else, and to break it down further, you're not paying that for majority of first home buyers, you're not paying that in cash. Yeah. That extra $25,000 is on a bank loan. Yeah. So when we're talking that could be as a ballpark figure, $25 a week difference. Yeah. Don't buy a coffee a day and you're in that property.
I love that. Don't buy a coffee a day. Like
very real estate agent thing to do.
No one's ever listened to that.
But it's very true in terms of when you break it down, that small extra amount, because people do go, yeah, it's $5 grand more. That's a lot of money. It's $5 grand more that you're paying over a 30-year loan. Yeah. As long as it ticks, once again, we're not saying overspend, but as long as it ticks the other fundamental boxes, it's within the range of the other properties. It's within the range of what you can afford.
Just have a crack at it.
It's a no-brainer. Property is a very high-cost transactional thing. You don't want to be transacting it often. You do want to buy it. You do want to hold. So, jump in.
Other thing I'd say as a first-home buyer is, okay, you found a property you love. Maybe even before that, is get out there and just see what grants have been offered. I mean, different states offer different things. New South Wales obviously has a variety of first home buyer initiatives for new homes, for apartments under certain price points. So there's a variety of first home initiatives. Get in there and take advantage of those because they're there to try to help you.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, but my best advice would be
you want to be researched on it, do a bit of Googling yourself to get at least a bit of an idea. And then after that, for the nitty gritty, speak to your accountant, speak to your broker. They're going to, even your solicitor as well, they're going to be the ones that will tell you exactly this is what you can and can't do. This is how the grants are going to affect you, because it can save you thousands of dollars, or tens of thousands of dollars.
What about this, Mark? Do you ever get a buyer at your open
who
just opens all the cupboards and turns on the dishwasher and flicks all the lights and checks the door locks and stuff like that?
Yes.
You do, eh?
Yes. My suggestion is don't do that your first time inspection. Respect that it is someone else's property. Walk through, just get a general feel if it is something right for you. And then afterwards, if it is something right, maybe organise a second inspection with the agent, come back and go, look, I do want to check these things there, make sure it's all working. I
agree with Michael. Do it, but do it. Don't do it on the first one.
Do it in the right
Come
context.
back, we'll get you in there.
Yeah.
But something I would do, I have a friend of mine and that drives him absolutely insane. So make sure you do that. He's another agent, not you, Michael.
Well, and also when you're negotiating with, and this is actually touching on that as well with agents, some people think the best way to negotiate with an agent is to be really, really tough and just be very dry on the phone. And
it's not our property. To be honest, that's all I'll say.
But it's also at the end of the day, like we're people too as well. And when you have that good relationship with someone, the conversation flows easier. Trying to offside an agent isn't necessarily going to help you. If anything, sometimes it makes it even worse as well. Have a genuine conversation. Yes, negotiate hard. But if you treat people right and fairly, once again, it's like anything in life, but it just gives you the best possible chance.
That's good. That's good advice, Michael. Because a lot of people do. I would say one thing as well that's maybe the hardest thing about being a first home buyer is understanding the buying temperature or the tempo of the market. So last year, for instance, we saw an absolutely insane selling market. Property was selling literally almost that day. You could put it on and you could sell it that afternoon, like Michael mentioned. And that's really, really hard to understand as a first home buyer. And sometimes you will be asked to move pretty quickly. So when you find yourself in an active market, and the best way to see that is you'll turn up to an open home and there's 10 to 15 other people there. That's a pretty active property. You've got to be ready to move quickly. And I know that's difficult as a first home buyer, but agents may be calling you that afternoon to let you know, hey, there is an offer. The owner's considering it. If it is something of interest, we'd recommend you put an offer in today as well. And I know it's hard. Like last year's market was so quick and active. A lot of first home buyers were missing out purely because they were saying, oh no, look, I'm going to start here really low and work my way up, and then all of a sudden, bang, bang, there's 3 or 4 hot offers and the property sells like that. So understand the tempo of the market's really hard to do. But what I would say is there's a trick of that, and that is obviously gauging the numbers coming through your open homes. So while you're looking at the property, how many other people are looking at the property? I'm trying to think if as a consumer I've got access to days on market. Michael, probably not.
Don't have days on market. We can always jump on realestate.com, search properties newest to oldest to newest. That's always a good gauge as well. See where the property sits, if it's just been launched, if it has been on the market for a while relative to everything else. And that's the thing. It is very hard to gauge the state of the market as well. And you don't want to fall victim to it and overpay for the property. But by the same token, the worst thing I see people do as well is going, I'm going to wait for the market to drop. And not saying the market doesn't go backwards sometimes. It does go through its ebbs and its flows. But to wait for the market to drop or wait for that big crash is not great. In terms of, we've had buyers that we've known they've been looking for years, some of them, unfortunately waiting for that drop to come. Or even if it does come, it's so short, it's so quick, and then all of a sudden it changes. The best advice we can give with that is buy when you're ready to buy. So understand the market conditions, but don't wait for them to get better or worse. If you're in a position that you've got your finance approved, with your personal situation, you're ready to buy, that's the best time to buy. Waiting for the market to have any particular upwards or downward swing, you're gambling. And you're gambling with your family home, because no one knows what tomorrow's going to bring with it. It could go up, could go down. Yes, we can speculate, but the best thing to do is lock it in, stay in it long term, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's right. So as a recap, look, I would say don't be afraid to come in, ask the agents questions. If the agent you're dealing with isn't very nice to you,
some agents are better than others.
Talk to another agent. Do you know what I mean? Like, go to the other open home and say, hey, look, I saw this other property. What do you think about that area? Is that a good street to be looking at? the honest agents will help you, and you'll be able to find them out pretty quickly just with how they do answer and how they do treat you. So don't be afraid to ask another agent about another property. They might dog it just to be aware because they're trying to sell you theirs. But the good guys will tell you, you know, it's a good area to be looking at or not as well. The other thing I was going to talk about is rents. So as a first home buyer, if you're taking advantage of a grant, you will move into a property within the first 12 months. But then a lot of those people come out and it becomes an investment property. Just be aware that those rents that are advertised out there are not always accurate. Yeah. So we offer a service. Obviously, the agent's trying to entice you into buying the property. We offer a service here at Novak Properties where we've got a full-time property manager, Ileana, and you can call her if you're looking at another property through another agency and you want to know, okay, look, really, what's the rent going to be? You can call her unbiased opinion. There's a rental return on what it should be looking at.
Yeah, get an expert's opinion. We're sales agents and we know the rentals market, but we don't know as well as the rentals guys do.
So that's a good idea. If you're out of area,
100%.
You know, get a rental opinion from a few different agents on a property, and then that'll give you a better idea as to what you can expect coming in.
And once again, like we said before, the sold properties, jump on realestate.com, see what's up for rent at the moment.
Yep.
Make your comparisons there.
But that's kind of it, guys. We want to help you as a first home buyer. Don't be afraid to ask us questions. You know, we want to see you into a home as badly as you want to get into a home. And we'll try to give you the best advice we can on dictating, you know, the tempo and the temperature of markets. But most of us are here to help you. But be pre-financed, get out there, do the research. Don't be afraid to ask questions and act with confidence. So put an offer in if you want beforehand, anything like that. Anything you can add, Michael?
No, you pretty much summed it up really well there. Well done. Awesome. Nice. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
No worries.
Again, Michael, good to see you on Monday night. Always. See you guys.
Have a great night. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.